All right, let's dive right into one of the most ambitious undertakings on the entire planet. We're talking about a mission to bring over 1 billion people into the digital age. This is the incredible story of India's great digital leap. To really get your head around the sheer scale of this, you have to start with this number, 1.4 billion. That's how many people call India home. Just let that sink in for a second. A number that big just naturally leads to a monumental question, right? How do you even begin to bring a nation this vast, this diverse, into the digital world? That's the core challenge we're going to unpack. Now, this whole thing isn't just about getting people online. It's a genuine quest for what's called universal digital literacy. Because in today's India, these skills, they're not a luxury anymore. They're an absolute necessity for growth and empowerment. So to tackle this massive challenge, the Indian government didn't just create one little policy. No, it built this huge, comprehensive framework, a grand plan, really, to engineer a digital society from the ground up. Okay, so let's look at how this all evolved. It started with some foundational programs like the National Digital Literacy Mission, or NDLM. Then, in 2015, things got serious with Digital India. That's the giant umbrella program for this whole transformation. And then, a couple years later, in 2017, they launched the flagship mission for rural areas, PMGDISH. PMGDIS. Yeah, I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but its goal is laser-focused. It stands for Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, and its entire purpose is right there in the name. Bring digital skills to India's enormous rural population. And the ambition here is just, well, it's staggering. The target for this one single program is to train 60 million people in rural areas. The idea is to reach one person from every single eligible household, making sure those benefits are spread as far and wide as possible. So what are we actually talking about when we say digital literacy? Well, it's not some high-level theory. We're talking about practical, real-world skills. Things like knowing how to use a smartphone, sending an email, and, this is key, accessing government services online, and making digital payments. These are the tools that change lives. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Government policy wasn't the only thing driving this. An unexpected game changer came along. A massive disruption in the market that basically poured rocket fuel on India's digital fire. And that disruption has a name, the Jio effect. Back in 2016, a new telecom company, Reliance Jio, jumped into the market and just completely flipped the script. The impact was, well, it was immediate and it was dramatic. Before Jio, getting mobile data was kind of a luxury item, a huge barrier for millions of people. After Jio came on the scene with its incredibly cheap plans, the internet basically became a public utility, affordable for pretty much everyone, especially in rural India. And the result? An absolute explosion in how much data people were using. All of a sudden, people weren't just dipping their toes in the water, they were living online. And this created the perfect storm for digital literacy programs, because now everyone had a powerful, everyday reason to learn these skills. But let's be real for a minute. This isn't just a simple, straightforward success story. While that combination of government planning and market forces was incredibly powerful, the road to full digital literacy is still filled with some very real, very tough hurdles on the ground. There are still some major obstacles. We're talking about fundamental things like spotty internet connections and unreliable electricity. Then there's affordability. The cost of a smartphone is still a massive barrier for the poorest families. And on top of all that, you have challenges with how the programs are run and huge language barriers to overcome. There's also this critical issue of equity. Early assessments of some of these programs showed that there was, and I'm quoting here, less than adequate representation from marginalized communities. So making sure that absolutely everyone, no matter their background, gets a seat at the digital table, that's a huge and ongoing goal. So knowing all those challenges, what's next? Well, India is definitely not standing still. The whole strategy is constantly changing, with new projects aimed squarely at knocking down these very hurdles to build a truly inclusive digital future. So the path forward is really a multi-pronged attack. You've got massive infrastructure projects like BharatNet to get broadband everywhere, and they're putting up thousands of new cell towers. At the same time, they're baking digital skills right into the school curriculum. And you see these awesome creative solutions popping up, like the Wisdom on Wheels, literally a computer lab on a bus. They're even looking ahead, focusing on skills like AI, which shows a real vision for the future. You know, when you step back, India's journey is about so much more than just technology. It's a story about unlocking human potential on a scale we've never seen before. It's really a living, breathing blueprint for how a nation can empower its citizens for the future. So as India continues to build this digital nation, taking on these immense challenges with just incredible ambition, the lessons it's learning won't just be for itself. And that leaves us with one last big question. What will India's journey end up teaching the rest of the world?